Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. And go after a little touch up there. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? Taking it back to the beginning.
We're Brooklyn at! We're Brooklyn at! We're Brooklyn at!
Yeah. Folks, this is the Comic Book Chronicles, and you can find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave us all the good 5-star reviews.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at some things on the side here. I'm like, wait, what's going on over there? You can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles and youtube.com/TheKliqNation.
Again, please hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification button so that you know when we are online.
Yeah. And that is THEKLIQNATION, by the way, all one word, just in case you were wondering. But folks, we are going to get started with a little spoiler-free / probably light recap of Marvel's She-Hulk episode 7.
Yeah, we'll be light on the spoilers, but, you know, there's going to be some inherently, so I'm going to ring the spoiler bell in 3, 2, 1. At least some mild spoilers incoming for She-Hulk episode 7.
So this here episode is called The Retreat, which, if you've been keeping up with She-Hulk, brings her back in contact with one Emil Blonsky at his... I guess newly. Oh, it's not necessarily new. I guess because he's been running it for a minute. Depending on how much time has passed between episodes.
Right.
But he's running a retreat that Jen pretty much gets stuck at for a little while, and that's pretty much all. Yeah, the gist
setup,
of the plot.
Right, the setup is that there's a very plausible setup here in that the Abomination's parole officer detects an anomaly. I'm going to use some Star Trek language here. Detect an anomaly with the Abomination's, aka Emil Blonsky's wrist ankle monitor, and he asks She-Hulk, one as a Hulk-powered person, and two as Emil Blonsky's attorney, to come with him, and that's where everything kind of jumps off from.
Yep. Pretty much, including as Agent 70 and I talked about slightly before the show, a couple of deep cut pulls in live action form.
yeah. There's one. There's one character that does make a return appearance.
Yes.
At this retreat, resort, whatnot, and as Roddykat said, there are a bunch of really deep cuts here, really digging in, not the complete bottom of the Marvel character barrel, but we're getting really close.
It's a yes, pretty much.
I was about to say, I don't know how you can sugarcoat that one.
No, I wasn't even going to try to. I was just going to be like, yeah, you're right, but because holy hell, one in particular who has actually been showing up in recent years in to which, unless you're reading it, you will not know. Right, showing up in the pages of Spider-Woman, excuse me.
Right, Jessica Drew Spider-Woman.
So that is interesting. If you've that might be a spoiler if you've been keeping up with that book, but you still don't necessarily know who, because a lot of people showed up in that book.
Right. And I remember reading when that character was kind of reintroduced, but I completely spaced on the fact that that was this character. I remember the unmasked character playing a role, but I couldn't remember that that was the secret identity of this character. Of this character that's introduced in this episode.
Right. So, and interesting part, they sometimes they did a change to the character, a slight change to the character, which I won't go into, but even if you know or you don't know, the character kind of, the relevancy is there or not there rather.
Right.
So,
and I guess the one other thing that we can add is that the perfect guy that was introduced in the wedding episode is not exactly what he seemed.
Yeah, which
Roddykat was not surprised. Yeah. I was mildly surprised, but at the end of the day, we knew that was just a little too good to be true. Especially given how the beginning of this episode also played out. So.
Right, because there were some other things going. There was another thing that was going on with Jen in the beginning of this, which we won't go into. That I'm sure a lot of people have had some experience with. Certainly, so which got worked out by the end. So there was that.
Right, there's a reveal at the end of the episode. So what we're getting now, instead of the tags, instead of the post credit or mid credit scene stingers, we're getting these very brief scenes at the end of each episode that serve as like a real means of moving the narrative forward without actually giving us a trailer cuts or like a mid-credit cutscene.
Right. And that's was one
the trend the last two episodes.
Right. And I'm basically kind of wondering, because I can't remember if I said it on the show or said it after the show about them basically reversing the trend of doing after credit scenes for the rest of the show. So far that seems to be bearing out, but I got a feeling that's probably not going to hold for the rest of at some point. But we'll see. Nevertheless, there was a nice little Easter egg if you were sharp-eyed enough, I guess a slight bit of comic history with She-Hulk that shows up near the end that I thought was going to pay off in a certain actual person showing up, but that has something to do with the character, or has had something to do with the character, let's say. But that didn't happen. I was kind of slightly bummed by that, but again, I wasn't like hedging. I wasn't like, oh, are we going to visit? No, okay, that's fine. It was kind of one of those things, but I figured they just kind of left it at the Easter egg in question. So,
what are you referring to?
When she got into the tow truck, did you happen to notice the name on the side of the tow truck?
I remember seeing it, but very briefly. I don't know if I was watching it on my phone or if I had watched that part at home.
Gotcha.
So I just remember flashing the name, so I don't remember the name, so I'm going to go back and check that out.
Yeah, like I said, we'll leave that out to the folks to discover for themselves. But I was like, okay, that was a nice. I figured it was going to show up somewhere.
To let everybody know to be on the lookout for it.
So exactly.
There's going to be an Easter egg there, folks, when you get to that part of the show. It's towards the end.
Right. And there's been stuff like that sprinkled in. I didn't see a QR code for anything, but it could have been something I overlooked also. Because they've been putting QR codes for, She-Hulk books in all of the episodes. But like I said, I did not see one in this one, but, there was probably one there. I just overlooked it. Surely. Otherwise, that was another, I guess we have slightly different opinions on the quality of this episode, but nevertheless,
there's a couple of aspects of this particular episode that I groaned at. Right? But I understand why, it's still well written. Right. It's just that it's not where I thought it was going to go. I'm not that familiar with Slott's run on She-Hulk. And I sort of understand that part of me doubts that they did this in the comics, but at the end of the day, you know, they're not beholden to any of the actual stories in the comics. These are all obviously adaptations.
Right.
So the writer's room gets to have some fun. And this is apparently, you know, a thing that happens, especially in California. You know, I feel like this is I don't know if Roddykat remembers Remember the Titans, the movie.
Yes.
Right. I feel like Donald Faison's character, you know, this is all stuff from California.
You're saying it's some crunchy stuff, some granola.
Yeah, it's some sunshine stuff. You know what I mean? This is some sunshine.
Yeah. I can totally see that. And as far as going back to whether this was in the comic books, it sounds like this could be something they probably. I don't remember this happening in Slot's run, but it's probably something that could have. It's set up in a way that it could have happened. The way that run kind of going to went, but I don't think it actually did. Unless it happened later on, because like I say, I went back. I'm still kind of in the midst of rereading that run, so there's parts of it I don't remember. So either way, like I said, still a pretty decent episode. Like I said, I can definitely understand how this episode can kind of get to some people because it kind of takes it to a place to where it's like, yeah, okay, we get it. You know, so I can kind of see that, but like I said, I didn't really have that big of a problem with it. But I can, like I said, I can see where that could kind of, you know, get to people because we've kind of had a good bit of it in the show. So,
right.
So that being said, we can push on to Andor. I should get like a clip or something. Well, not a clip because I don't want to get us taken off YouTube, but get like something like. Get the title up for something so to show that we're talking about the thing. Regardless, Star Wars Andor.
Hey, we can always play a particular sound effect.
Noise! Exceptions!
Because that's what's in this story. This story is all about where that particular quote comes from. This is the precursor to Rogue One, and we're following the story of Cassian Andor. And we are now neck deep into his origin of being part of the nascent rebellion. And this is basically a look into, this is a mild spoiler. So again, I'm going to ring the spoiler bell for Andor. Spoilers incoming in 3, 2, 1. Bottom line here is, without talking too much about what happens, this is the first look into Cassian Andor's first real mission as being part of, or at least technically being part of, as I said earlier, the nascent rebellion against the Empire. I'm not sure what else we need to add to that because that's really what it comes down to.
Exactly, that's pretty much the just stuff because and this is just him starting the mission. Like they didn't even get into it. Like obviously there was some, there's a little bit of setup and this and that and the other, but that's pretty much the gist of this. And it's episode 4, by the way. For those keeping track and not necessarily watching it. So.
I thought I said it was episode 4.
I don't remember you saying it, but either way, hey, reiteration is always good sometimes. So yeah, I mean, there's really, it's still pretty good. Like we get, so the only thing I guess to add to it is like we get a little bit more about a character that Cassian is dealing with, and we get, I guess, reintroduced
we get a nice cameo appearance from a Rogue One character that plays a smaller role in the later trilogy.
Well, yeah, I was about to get to that, to I guess some would say a long-standing Star Wars character in a sense,
right? Who
kind of comes in at places. I guess she kind of did come in at in the prequels too, near the end.
Mm-hmm.
So either way. So we get, I guess, an introduction to her part in this, or the part of this character's part in this, or at least started to anyway. And I guess there may or may not have been a reference to another character that we have seen before that may or may not come into play. I'm not sure if that was what that was or just thinking about it. But regardless, like I said, a couple of characters we kind of get a little bit more on and kind of get going into this mission. That's really not much else to say about this episode.
Oh, I did have one thing to mention.
Okay.
So, of course, it's the one dude who's got an AK-47 looking blaster. I kind of giggled at that. I kind of giggled when I saw that. I was like, look at this dude, A to the K.
I saw that. I was like, really? I don't remember that. Like, I don't remember seeing that kind of blaster anywhere or rifle anywhere.
A to the K.
Like, oh, they just unloaded blaster clips at people. Like, what's going on?
I was about to say, yo, I'm like, yo, how can you be real and send dog, A to the MF&K, homeboy.
I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad you said that because
shout out to Cypress Hill. I recommend that. I think it was a Showtime documentary that's out now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
You were saying? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. I'm glad you brought that up because I was like, I saw that and I was like, I don't know where that came from, but like, I know there are different types of blasters, and I know definitely in the video games they have had to kind of, make their own types of guns that are seemingly in canon. And it was like, okay, well, there you go. So, like, seeing that joint was like that was kind of. I had to stop. Really, I legit stopped. I was like, wait, wait, where did this guy either come from a planet far, far away? I mean, a different planet. It was like he just came with his own stuff.
I laughed because I think I stared at it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I was doing, was just staring at it. I was like, really?
Right. I actually stopped. Like, I actually paused it. I'm like, and looked at it for a minute. And I was like, wait, like, what is going on with this thing? Like, that's straight up, like you said, this is straight up AK. That's like, they're not even trying anymore. So, yeah. But nonetheless, I'm sure if Eagle Eye folks will pick that up, and I'm surprised actually no one said anything about it online. But again, like the show at this point is still a day out, so
and it's still so obvious too.
Yeah, right. Even though I know people spoil things at the minute zero, so like I said, not surprised I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, we get a kind of a cool side story with that the really insistent looking, the really insistent.
Yes, the company cop dude. Yeah.
So that was an interesting little side story.
Yeah.
We're not spoiling anything here.
No.
We do get a little bit of follow up on the after effects of that kind of blown mission that occurred in the first 3 episodes.
Still need more done to that dude though. He deserves a little bit more. There's
a lot more story left to tell.
Yep.
The one thing I wanted to add is that Bix is nowhere to be found, which was sad for me. I don't know about Roddykat, but I would much rather see Bix popping up in every episode.
So there is another character I suspect the one that Cassian gets introduced to here. Plays into a personal mission of his, I suspect. And yes, hopefully we will at some point, Bix will end up coming back in some fashion. Because I would hate for them to be like, well, okay, no, that's just it, and that's it. Like, I don't think they would set her up that way. That seems a waste.
Yep.
So, but yeah, but we'll see if. I suspect this other person is definitely who you, if people have been paying attention, think that person is. We just haven't gotten that yet. And yeah, like I said, Bix will show back up at some point because they need to. She needs to.
Yep. They actually do mention the person whose quote I used to transition into this discussion. So, that person is alive and well still. This is pre-Rogue One.
Right. At this point. So, yeah. Because less folks we say this now. It's 5 years before the events of Rogue One. So
right. This is even before the events of Rebels.
Yes. Wait.
Well, for the most part, not the entire.
Even early. Yeah, I was about to say because early Rebels was probably around this
time.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
So.
Right before the time jump and Ezra getting older for and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, I would. You know, now that you say that, I would be interested because they did also mention a Well, I mean, granted, they also mentioned it in Clone Wars, but a location that is significant to one of the characters in the Clone Wars. I mean, in Rebels, which would play about this time because of certain events, I guess. So, or Rebels and Clone Wars. Now that I think about it, because it's like that was the thing I was kind of wondering about. So, either way, not to go too far into that, because we're going to talk about this after we get off the air. So, nevertheless, it was a good episode. Still, there's the intrigue is starting in earnest. We can safely say that. So now that we finished that, I guess we want to go ahead and push on to books.
No, we still have a quickie recap just from me on Rings of Power and House of the Dragon from this past week, as I've been doing since these shows have dropped. I'm just going over things very quickly in very, very broad strokes. So we're getting in Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, Rings of the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. We get a nice little song in last week's episode, which is kind of cool. I like that. This is very reminiscent of, the songs that the Hobbits sing, and it is sung by the Harfoots, who are one of the Harfoots, who are basically the precursors of the Hobbits in Lord of the Rings.
Right.
We also have some teases as to, some teased character introductions. We may be seeing the earliest versions of some characters showing up in this episode. I will leave it up to speculation because it's all still very much speculation. There's some characters who were introduced that may be red herrings, and some characters who may be who we think they are, and some people who may not be who we think they are. I will also say that Roddykat did just start this show. He's on episode 1.
Yep.
And I'll let him talk about it, but he basically echoes a lot of how I feel about this show. Is that, 1, it's a real pleasure to look at. 2, I still think juggling the names of juggling the familiar names will be the part where anyone who's looking for like the Easter eggs, and obviously we know that this is the lead up to the formation and the battle over the rings of power. That's obviously the title of the story, that lead into the trilogy that we all know.
Right.
And into the Hobbit, really. So bottom line here is, and I'll let Roddykat add his thoughts on episode 1. But bottom line here is, I'm enjoying this. I don't think I don't think anyone who has very little background with the story needs to have really read anything. I don't even think you really need to have watched the original the Fellowship trilogy to really enjoy this, because I think they're doing a pretty good job of telling their story.
I think people are going to still do that, whether before, well, I guess whether as a reminder, recap of the events of Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy proper. Right. And then there's some lunatics out there who apparently, I shouldn't say that, that's not nice, but it's still, I was like, I saw somebody had just finished reading the Silmarillion. Somebody had retweeted somebody reading the Silmarillion. I'm like, you know what? Bravo, but that is an undertaking.
Good for you. I said, good for you. I've only ever read The Hobbit and the Fellowship trilogy.
Right. I think I only read the Fellowship, just the first book, period. So,
for real?
Yeah.
Well, I was about to say, I definitely recommend reading the next 2. It actually fills in a lot of, like you get to appreciate the story even more because you see what they chose to adapt.
Sure.
And it's like, all right, that makes sense why they chose to adapt that. Obviously, big battle of Helm's Deep. You should read how that's written. It's epic. It is epic. And the Battle of Pelennor Fields, which is like the lead up going towards whatchamacallit, when when the Rohirrim charged down the Pelennor Fields towards Gondor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's really like that. You know, like those are some of the things I distinctly remember reading and enjoying in the book.
Agent 7 showing his Tolkien knowledge.
Listen, I am no Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert is like, you know, ridiculous with that stuff. So, you know, if anybody's a fan of the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, he will pull out all sorts of Lord of the Rings stuff. I'm just like, man, dude, I am nowhere close to that. All right. Last but not least, in terms of last week's kind of genre TV that we've been following, House of the Dragon episode 6. So this episode, titled The Princess and the Queen, basically had the big time jump that has been teased from the start. The first 5 episodes basically had some smaller time jumps to move some relationships along, but this is the big one where we're switching between the younger princess character, the younger actors playing the princesses, into their young adult female actresses, and we have, you know, we're gonna presume they're in there at this point like mid-20s, and you know they both had multiple children. You know, they start bearing children in whatchamacallit, in King's Landing at a pretty young age. And bottom line here is, you know, we get to see a lot of the palace intrigue on a different level now, because now there are increasingly active moves towards gaining power, because one of the kind of overarching storylines is that the king that we initially met in the first episode is rapidly, I've said this before on the show and I'll say it again, falling apart with age. So, and I literally mean that. He's literally falling apart with age. So that is going to be, that seems to be, you know, one of the driving forces behind the storytelling in this show. You know, there's I don't know, Roddykat, you watched you watched the original Game of Thrones?
No. I watched like 2 episodes and that was it.
Sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
So I will say that we now have a new Littlefinger, or at least someone pretending to be a new Littlefinger. So we'll see how that goes, but we're getting more and more depth to these characters and more depth to the story. And obviously we're getting tons of dragon action that was obviously promised, because this is obviously the show's title, House of the Dragon. We're definitely getting a lot of the dragons that were talked about in the first Game of Thrones show and only, you know, told about in story. We're getting lots of dragon action here in this show, so it's a lot of fun to see. But overall, you know, I'm enjoying both House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. You know, and we've said it before. Even Roddykat has mentioned it. I'm much more attuned to the Rings of Power show, just because I've read the books. The House of the Dragon show, though, I think is a little more. It just has a cachet. You know, Game of Thrones has a cachet with the viewing public, and so I think it's definitely a little bit more viewer friendly.
Okay.
At least that's my opinion.
Right.
You know, in terms of just the storylines and the storytelling. You know, I think Rings of Power, you know, has lots of it's not really high concepts, but you know, the story, the world of the story is so much bigger. Right.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because yeah, they're coming from 2 different places if you think about it, though. Because if you know, House of the Dragon is the prequel to Game of Thrones, which, you know, with small screens and stage small screen. Lord of the Rings is a quote unquote small screen thing that, you know, ultimately
a big screen thing.
Basically. and it's coming off of that, and of course, you know, if you're of a certain vintage, you remember the animated Ralph Bakshi joint from the 70s. That has nothing to do with this, but it's just.
I don't remember that. I never watched that.
Oh, you never watched them? Oh man, they're. I don't know if they hold. Well, I'm sure they probably hold up to a certain way, because obviously those are like 70s things, or that was the 70s thing, because I don't think there was more than one. But you should watch it if you ever get a chance to watch it. You should watch it. It's probably out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's probably available streaming, maybe on YouTube for all we know.
I suppose hell probably be on Apple. It's probably on Amazon. I wouldn't be surprised. But so I say that to say that might have something to do with the reception to both of them, and plus Game of Thrones, you know, is newer,
right?
In both senses actually, because because they came off of George R. R. Martin's book, who came well after Tolkien's Lord of the Rings books and the movies, and whatnot. So people have taken to, and plus we're in an age of the internet where it is appointment TV, and people have kind of used that time to talk about it. It's a water cooler moment also. Yep. So that's where there's a difference in those two shows. I think I don't know if that all bears out, but I feel like that's kind of where
I was about to say, I think you're right. You're right to a certain extent. I think that's just these are all contributing factors into how they're being received.
Right. So. But nevertheless, I will definitely. I'm going to be catching up with Rings of Power, because I'm kind of slightly more in tune with the movies that they're coming off of than Game of Thrones, because I did not sit through all of that. And I know you mentioned the fact that there's more dragon action going on here than it was in the original series, and I guess that makes sense, because I know people were kind of was like, where are the dragons? And the dragons didn't happen until I think late into the run, I guess.
Right.
For the most part. So I guess they figured, plus, since we can justify it now, since it's supposed to be in an age where there were more dragons per capita than the original series, they could just throw it out there to appease people. So there is that. Anywho, you got anything else on that, or is that it?
No, that's it. We can move on to books.
Alrighty. We're just going to start off with Amazing Spider-Man number 10.
Amazing Spider-Man number 10 is... I thought we were going to start with A.X.E. Avengers, actually.
I'm sorry, you are absolutely right. Well, I just had A.X.E. I mean, I had Spidey on the brain, but we'll get to that in a second. Yes,
okay.
A.X.E. Avengers number 1.
We're kind of following the reading order that's been set, even though we know that it's not 100% foolproof, as we found out last week, right?
Indeed.
So A.X.E. Avengers number 1 is a one-shot. It's written by Kieron Gillen, with art by Federico Vicentini. Colors are by Dean White, and letters are by VC's Corey Pettit. So again, the focus of all of these A.X.E. Judgment tie-in issues have been the judgments of some of the lead Marvel characters, specifically some of the lead Marvel characters in their respective books. In this case, it's judgment of a particular Avenger. It's not really a spoiler if I just say who it is. It's Iron Man.
Yeah, and if you're watching the video version, you can see the cover. So
right, because he's on the cover, he's front and center basically, and it involves, interestingly, some plays on his MCU origin and his comic book origin, kind of, playing with everyone's expectations as they're being kind of, as they're kind of describing the Marvel Universe version, and showing some of the visuals from the MCU version. Mm-hmm. I kind of got a kick out of that.
I'm glad you picked up on that. Yes, I noticed that also.
So, but ultimately, that's what this issue's about.
But also worth noting, he's not necessarily being judged. I mean, he hasn't received a judgment. Yes, they're still at this point, still in the testing phase, as they say. as we find out at the end of this book. Because I thought about that. I was like, yeah, I thought this was going to be his judgment issue, but it actually kind of wasn't. Unless I missed that part, because I don't think it did.
Hold on. Now I'm clicking through because I thought this was his judgment.
I thought so too as I was reading it, but as you find out in the end of the book, it's like, well, that's not necessarily the case.
So...
And you got to think about when this is being set, also. I think, because I think this is because judgment. See, that's the confusing part about it, because I think this is supposed to be set before the judgment part happened, or somewhere between after the judgment happened and whatnot. Oh, oops.
Yeah, maybe I was about to say it's hard to tell because it does say that he passes. So,
does it?
Maybe it's not that right. It doesn't seem like it's like the kind of judgment that we're getting from everybody else, but it does at the same time.
Because I saw where it said it was like, no, because basically he was saying at the end, like, hey, we're being tested. So I did not take that as he passed, but it must have missed it where it did say that. But again, no, but it also makes sense also that, well, it was like if he went through that and still passed, then,
right.
That makes
being
as much
but
sense.
not with finality.
Right.
He's not getting like that final, like you die now judgment.
Right.
That's the way a lot of these judgments have been going, and that's and we're about to get to another one in the next book we talk about. Anything else to add to this?
I was just going to mention that we get a little bit more on Tony's. I'm going to start possibly calling it a fetish. By the way, he was talking about it here, but his thing with redheads, which granted he's not the only one that is in the Marvel universe.
Not the only one.
Exactly. That has this particular interest. As we will
hello,
also get
Scott Summers and hello sometimes Peter Parker.
Exactly. So, but it comes up here in an interesting way in dealing with with his testing one and with another character that is along with him. As the story progressive, I'm also surprised that Wolverine didn't say anything to that point. To that, I don't know if he was in the earshot, but his hearing is probably pretty good, and we did see him in the next panel, so I thought that might have been something. So, otherwise, it was interesting to see them blending Tony's some referential MCU moments to his comic book origins. So, whether any of that sticks is anything, because comics kind of tends to slide like that, or whether this was just like, no, it was all the tests, and it didn't mean anything. That we will see, but I suspect it all kind of sticks to and current events of Iron Man, by the way, kind of get brought up also, which was front and center. So we know where this is. Yeah, we kind of know where this is in that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess. At the end of the day, this sound effect really does apply for this story.
Is this a test?
So,
yeah, there it is. So now we can go on to the next book.
Alrighty, our next book is Amazing Spider-Man number 10. It's written by Zeb Wells with art by Nick Dragotta, colors by Marcio Meniz, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, our favorite lettering paisan. I will let Roddykat lead the way on this one.
Sorry, I was getting a little time signature there going. So yeah, we this is basically Peter's / Spidey's. Actually, it's more Peter's, not necessarily Spidey's. Judgment or testing, as we have just seen with Tony Stark. Actually, and in the beginning of this, we get a call from Peter to Tony Stark trying to figure out, asking about the events that's going on. To which I guess, Tony kind of gets him up to speed, and we get a particular person or a particular vision of the person following Peter around through this whole day, and to watch him and test him. To which, if you're watching the video version, you can see who the person is, so it's not that big of a it's a spoiler, but not really a big spoiler if you're watching the video. So of who it is that is been pulled from his memory for this. The most amusing thing about this story, as I said in my notes, is like Zebworld's kind of put the pulse of putting out the pulse of humanity in the beginning there commentary, because we see we see the effects of people trying to basically change themselves before judgment, or change their change their judging by doing random kind acts, and things of that nature, including one J. Jonah Jameson, which I was like, yep, this makes sense for him to act the way he is for at the time that is happening. As we follow Peter throughout the day, kind of talking with people and doing his, I guess, what he would have actually probably put off because of an event like this. Now that I think about it, because some of the people who were like, well, this stuff is going on, so we're not going to worry about this. But he is promising things to people and kind of dealing with that, and kind of gets in touch with people. Of course, that one part with Aunt May was kind of touching at the end of it. And it was like, oh, okay. But the real touching part comes at the end of it, which I won't spoil about it. But let's just say Peter gets to have a moment with someone from his past at the end of this, or with the version that shows up of the person in the past. I guess, again, if you're watching the video version, you can see who that is, and some things get hashed out. We kind of get a little bit of something on that whole situation with Mary Jane, just in that situation, but not so much. Just enough to kind of tease us to know what in the world happened with that situation. Right.
And it makes sense that they would not reveal too much in this, issue, because it is a crossover, tie-in issue. Right. But at the end of the day, it's still written by the regular writer of the book. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense. It was nice to see Kamala Khan make a bit more than just a teeny tiny cameo appearance here.
Yeah, but I'm still worried about the way that how they have her looking though.
Older?
Yes. Like older and still slightly different than the way she looks, like the way she looks in other books, probably around the same time. Because it's not like she's aged that much. She just looks slightly way older than normal.
It's because the hair is up because she's in a professional setting.
I thought about that too, but I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit more than that. I mean, maybe it's just about something me bumping on, but I don't know. It's just like, and it's not just Nick Dragotta's, art. It was like who has ever been the regular artist on this. It's kind of been like that also. Mm-hmm. So
I kind of got a kick out of the various characters who are being judged.
Yes.
During this issue, it's not just Peter,
right? And part of me, as I was reading this, thinking, was like, well, this is not going to go the way you would, this is not going to go well for Peter because of Parker look. I feel like, because it was like, okay, it seemed like he's doing, begrudgingly doing all this nice stuff that he possibly would have done at some point, but usually when something else comes up, he kind of, skitters away to do Spidey stuff or whatever the case may be. So I feel like his judgment probably could have still gone the other way, and the Parker luck would have been blamed for it or something. But apparently his judgment came out all right. Spoiler, but you still want to read this if you so care about that part. But if you don't, hey, we saved you trouble. But I would say it is definitely worth the read to get to near the end. Because that was a very quite touching moment. Like I said,
it's very emotional.
Yeah, that he has with the character. That was like, I was like, damn, that kind of hits you in the feels for real.
In the gut feel.
Mm-hmm. So it was, I could, for that respect, it would almost be a potential click of the week.
No, that's pretty much, for me, what I was telling Roddykat earlier is that everything was downhill after reading this, for me at least. Everything, there were good reads, but nothing that really stood out for me this week. Right. So Yeah, this is definitely a genuine contender for Click of the Week for me.
Yeah, so it is definitely worth a read. Usually tie-in issues can go one way. Like either they're going to mean something in the direct line of the story or don't mean anything, but sometimes pointing it to the character, depending on, how it's tied in. I think this is one of those ones kind of pointing it to the character, not necessarily
Sure.
the story.
And what we were saying, what I was saying earlier is that, I was kind of poking fun at my frustration with Zeb Wells' story so far. And, the reason why I enjoyed this story is because he's using the storytelling plot device that's running through the entire, through the majority of the Marvel books right now, which is being judged.
Right.
So it's that, it's that storytelling device that he's using to really, ramp up the feels and the emotions in this issue, in this particular part of his, longer arc of his story. And so that's why I enjoyed this. Whereas, I can't speak for Roddykat, but I know that he sometimes echoes my frustrations with Zeb Wells' story so far through the first 9 issues of this book. And, and how we're still not it seems like we're only minimally closer to finding out what actually happened to cause Spidey all this pain and all this, fallout between himself and MJ and the other heroes and other characters that he interacts with. So,
right.
9 issues in, come on, man, you got to give us a little bit more. Are you, how many trade paperbacks are you going to make people buy?
Right. Like, we're not saying that. Well, I'm not saying that you should just go ahead and just rush through the whole story and get to the end of it. But yeah, you got to give us a little bit more.
Right. Because and I don't mean that lightly when I say, right. So what are people buying when they buy that first trade?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Let's say the first trade is 12 issues. What are they getting? I'm hoping that at some point in the next 2 issues we're going to find out. Right.
It's kind of one of those things like, okay, if you're coming in as just a fan of Spidey, then you probably don't care one way or another. In that respect, that's one thing. But if you do actually enjoy the story, in addition to the character, you kind of might want a little bit more, especially with what they give you in that first arc.
Exactly. And obviously we're a little bit, I can speak for myself, but again, I'm not sure. I don't think Roddykat's going to differ from me too much on this. Coming off of the most recent run, with the culmination of that that Ben Reilly story and putting Spidey in a good, putting Peter and MJ specifically in a good place, and then we're here in this awful place.
Right.
It's so jarring. It's like, well, we're 9 issues in. We still don't really know that much about what happened. And, imagine someone who's trade waiting. That's all I mean. It's like, well, I have the first trade. I still don't really know what happened.
Right. Because, yeah, exactly. Especially if you're coming, like I just said, you're coming off that last arc and it's like, well, everything's good here. And then you get thrown like knee deep into this. Right. Not just into it, knee deep into this, and with no idea of how we got there. And we know he's getting into it, and we know he's clearly, they've clearly got a plan to get him to that point. That I'm sure hopes that's going to pay off for him. Like I said, always go into these things that hopeful with hope that they're going to pay off nicely. But just a little bit more would be nice. That's all I'm saying. And maybe we'll get into that in the next issue, because I assume because of A.X.E was coming and knew they was going to have to do this tie-in issue, maybe. And I don't know anything about, or if anything that's going on with this book or anything, but maybe because of they had to kind of pause some things they were doing because of this, because they knew they were going to get to this point. And then they're going to get back to it, in the next issue, and we will get some more. Right. We'll see.
It was also very interesting to see which character represented the Celestial Judge for Norman Osborn.
Yeah. Yes.
I thought that was interesting, though.
Right. Because, well, actually, I'm not even going to. But yeah, I guess you could kind of see it as when you're going through it, because I guess if you look at it a certain way, it makes some sense. But at the same time, like, you would think it could have been someone else.
Oh yeah, I would have thought it was someone else, to be honest.
Right. So, but I guess, given this character's history with both Peter and him, and it does end up making sense. But yeah, I was like,
about to say you just. Well, I was about to say you didn't really spoil it, but
yeah, no. I mean, because there's a few different characters that have a history between the two of them. So
exactly.
But also,
it's not Harry. It's not Harry.
Right. He's got his own things going on. Actually, yeah, I guess he still does have his own thing going on after the end of that last arc. So
He does.
but also at the same time, like I said, and the last thing I'll say about this, if you're watching the video version of this show and you know anything about any of the characters, you already pretty much kind of, yeah. So, anywho.
All right, next up in our reviews before we transition over to rapid fire is Miles Morales Spider-Man number 42. If that number has any significance for you, it should. If it doesn't have any significance for you, that is, it should. This book is written by Saladin Ahmed with art by, and get ready, folks, art by Carmen Carnero, Paris Ayane, Guara, pencils by Paco Medina, and inks by Walden Wong. Additional art by Alifa E. Martinez, Natasha Bustos, and Christopher Allen. Colors on this issue are by David Curiel, and letters are by VC's Corey Pettit. So, Roddykat and I were speaking about this just before the show started, and we had talked about Saladin Ahmed wrapping up his run on Miles, and it took Roddykat a little bit by surprise, and I just think it's because we haven't gotten as many of these issues coming out recently. We've been dealing with that whole time jump, that time travel thing with Shift and with Salim. So I guess it just sort of kind of sprang up on us that Saladin Ahmed's run was coming to an end, and this issue serves as a fitting bookend to his story time, to his time on Miles's story.
Right.
That's what I have to say. Go ahead, Roddykat.
Right. And because of, if you remember us talking about the last issue, at the end of the issue, Miles is back home, and that's it. So, and we kind of, if I'm not mistaken, we kind of expected there to be at least an epilogue or something else to happen, when he's just getting home, before like this issue would come across. But no, that wasn't the case. It was like, oh no, he's back home. He's been back home for a minute, and chilling with his people, and it ends. Yeah, it ends in it's a nice send off for the character. I will say that. Because halfway through reading this, like Agent Cedric said, I was kind of expecting something a little bit more until I got to a certain point. I was like, oh right, this is the send off to Saladin Ahmed's run. And it took me by surprise because I was kind of expecting just a little bit more, and the fact that I figured there would have been at least another issue. But hey, 42 issues, whether you think of it in one respect of the number or another, because I'm sure there are people that's going to take that the reference for that number in a couple of different places, depending on your depending on where you come from.
Background.
Exactly.
Right.
So. It is a very significant number one way or the other, put it that way. So, it was Ahmed's run was a great run. And, as it said in the back of the book, it was like 4 years on this book with this character, given a good lot to it. And, he's had some very solid stories in it. So, and I'm kind of sad. And I know I feel like Agent 70 probably feels the same way about this. I can take it to say that sad to see him go off the book because he's done such a pretty solid run. And there's some apprehension of the incoming creator team, but we're gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, I think.
Roddykat may.
Okay, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. We had this conversation before the show,
right.
So I cannot speak for.
I have a lot of trepidation.
Yeah.
I have a lot of trepidation, well-earned trepidation, I might add. So, but I'm much more, I'm definitely generous for the most part when it comes to giving creators a chance, but they need to have shown me something coming in, and this particular creator has not shown me much thus far.
Yeah.
So, but obviously, you know, the stories had to deal with stupid Ben Reilly. So, you know,
Yes.
can only do so much with stupid Ben Reilly. I'm sorry, folks. I know there are plenty Spider Clone fans out there.
Well, help you. Goodness help you. But yeah, that being said, like I said, this I would, if you're a fan of Miles Morales and you're not already picking up this issue, you don't necessarily need to know what the last arc is about, even though it kind of like it gets referenced.
Right.
So, and it's still a pretty good read as an outgoing book, you know. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Yep.
That's being said, we can go on to rapid fire.
All right, let me spin it up.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, so we're going to have a little bit of crossover between my books, a little bit of commonality here between my books and Roddykat's books. I don't believe he read this one, though, but I think he will, so I'm going to steer very clear of spoilers. Captain America, Symbol of Truth, #5, is written by Tochi Onyebuchi, with art by R.B. Silva and Julian Shaw. Colors are by Jesus Bertov, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So, I'm not going to spoil too much here, but the crux of this issue is a showdown between T'Challa and one Sam Wilson, Captain America. And I felt like it was... Listen, T'Challa is one of the best fighters in the Marvel Universe here.
Hmm.
Sam Wilson is not. I thought this was, you know, obviously meant to not show up the star of his own book, but that's the one thing I'll say.
Are you saying they were being generous with how the fight went?
Yes.
I kind of figured as much because even when knowing that this was going to happen, if they were going to go along with, you know, a confrontational fight, which I guess technically this will be T'Challa's second fight with a Captain America. So there you go.
Right. I mean, listen, you know, like we know one thing is going to go down when it's Steve, but we kind of have an idea what's going to go down if it's Sam. So, but at the end of the day, you know, it's the story is, you know, has obvious parallels to real world issues. We do follow up on the current Falcons story as well. You know, they are being told, and you know, his and Sam's stories were being told in parallel as they kind of pursued two different aspects of that vibranium smuggling shipment story. So, you know, we'll see how that moves forward, especially with the antagonist of the story being revealed to, you know, being basically revealed to both of them in this issue. Next up is Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings #3. So we both have this in common. It's written by Jean Luen Yang with art by Marcus To, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So it's interesting that I just started the television drama Killing Eve this week because it is centered on British intelligence. And, you know, another way of telling a British intelligence story, you know, not aside from James Bond, right? And Shang-Chi, for almost the entire character's history, has had very close ties with British intelligence because he originally started out working as an operative for British intelligence. Or at least, you know, not originally starting out, but definitely became an operative of British intelligence and worked with several members of British intelligence during his comic book history. It turns out, in the last issue, British intelligence screwed Shang-Chi over. They totally played him. And we get to see some of the ramifications of that in this issue. We also have some callbacks to Arthurian legend. So I will let Roddykat comment on this book.
Yeah, there's really not much else to say about that. You pretty much summed it up pretty neatly. Yeah, there's not much of Shang-Chi's early history that I'm that familiar with. Like this part I kind of knew about, you know, in bits and pieces that of his work with British intelligence. In fact, I guess that kind of did still go on into later runs. Even I guess even when he did was with the Avengers. Now that I think about it, because I feel like that kind of got brought up. But yeah, so like you just said, he got kind of screwed over here, and he wants his stuff back. The whole thing with, you know, I guess we don't really get into fully why they did. I mean, we know why they did, why they took it. We don't get the full reason that I'm looking, unless I missed something when I skimmed this, when I skimmed the issue, because it was one of the last books I read. But I guess that'll be something that'll come out. Also, one would say there's a Lord of the Rings reference in here. Also, if you if you take a certain section of the book into count, but there is that. So yeah, it is what it is. Where Mr. Yang is going with this book, I don't know, and that's kind of I guess that's where I'm at with him. Like, okay, so we know people are going to be after the 10 rings. He's pretty much out here in the Marvel universe, and people want the rings. To what end? You know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and where is he going to take it? And is there going to be some confrontation with some members of the former, you know, I don't know, somebody dealing with the former owner of subsequent other rings in the Marvel universe that are not these particular ones.
Right.
So probably that has nothing to do with anything, but you know, there is another movie coming that I feel like that they're trying to leaning towards, and I don't know that for certain. I feel like in a way, because this book has already shown it's kind of been MCU-ified because of the fact that he's now has the 10 rings, which you got from the movies. We don't know where the next movie is going to go, but we do know some things about at least a character that's going to show up. You know, whether any other characters get reintroduced or get introduced, and or how they play a part. You know. In it, we don't know, but I feel like there's in some small way might be. I don't know that for certain, because like that movie's a ways off, and I can't imagine they have much on that movie to be able to put into the comics, unless this is going to feed into that because of that, you know. So either way, that's pretty much all I have to say about Shang-Chi.
All right, cool. Next up is Thor number 27. The plot for this issue is from Al Ewing and Donny Cates, and you'll see why in a second. The script is by Al Ewing. The guest artist on this issue is Salvador Larroca. The guest colorist is Edgar Delgado, who is a frequent collaborator with Sal Larroca. And the letters are by VC's Joe Sabino. So this issue, and it's not a spoiler here because it's right there on the cover, the King in Black, the original OG Venom, makes an appearance in this issue. And interestingly enough, it comes about as Thor is dealing with the fallout from that whole Banner of War crossover with the Incredible Hulk. And so we have an old Thor villain come back as the result of a miscast spell from Loki. And what comes with that old Thor villain is basically a Clintar symbiote, which is where Venom comes into play. So bottom line here is this is a nice little crossover between characters that really haven't crossed paths that much. So it makes sense that Al Ewing and Donny Cates would collaborate on this plot.
And okay, I was about to, because when I saw that in your credits, I'm like, it didn't make any sense to me because I don't remember Al Ewing writing either one of these characters, unless he did it for King. Well, no, because King in Black was Donny Cates' joint, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and wait, is that Venom actually Eddie Brock? I know this might be possible. Okay.
That's why I said OG.
Right. But because I read the I read the thing on comic views on previews on this. And I was like, well, wait, I thought he was dead after King in Black.
No. That's when you look at the new Venom, you see that there's two parallel stories being told.
Oh, okay.
Right. Neither of us are really reading it,
Right.
but I know I flipped through. I flipped through. I think the free Comic Book Day book, and I think that showed it, right away.
Interesting. Okay.
And last but not least, I don't know if you read this. I didn't scroll down to it. X-Men number 15.
No, I didn't.
All right, X-Men number 15 is written by Jerry Duggan with art by Joshua Cassara, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. I won't spoil it because I have a feeling Roddykat will take a look at this book. I will just say that, one, it's a continuation, and I told Roddykat this already, it's a continuation of previous X-Men storylines, so we kind of have an idea that whatever change is going to happen as the result of Judgment Day A.X.E. is an illusion of change. Because we are back to, X-Men storytelling at its finest here in X-Men number 15, and we are picking up on a storyline that just seems to want to keep going, and that is the children of... Oh my God! What the
Vault, Children of the Vault.
Yes, the Vault. I was about to say, I'm like, not the Children of the Door. It's related. You know what I mean? I'm like, wait, what's the term? It's the Children of the Vault storyline, which does not want to go away.
Right.
Since that's actually pre-Hoxpox.
Is it? Because I think
was that early Hoxpox?
I think it was early Hoxpox. If not, okay. Yeah, it was definitely before they switched to Arc. But yeah, I think it was early on because it was one of those things like they brought it up and they had a couple of issues with it, and then I think they dropped it after that. It was like, okay, they seemed like there's something they're going to come back to, and I guess this is that.
Right. I mean, I'm checking on this now, but I have a feeling that the Children of the Vault is pre-exist Hoxpox, but I could be wrong.
Oh no, they I think do.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, but I mean
X-Men
the story that they're picking up on
number 188.
Right, but the story they're picking up on with this.
Right. Yeah. But the Children of the Vault, the concept dates all the way back to September of 2006.
Right.
So that's why to me it goes so far back.
Right.
But as Roddykat said correctly, that the storyline that they're picking up on here is a recent one, but the concept of this Children of the Vault stuff goes back a long way.
Right.
So, but basically that storyline has decided to rear its head again in the pages of X-Men. So, as I said, Roddykat will be reading this. No further spoilers.
Yeah. I guess that's it for you.
Yeah, that is it for me. Take it away.
Alrighty then. We start off with, you knew it was gonna come back, folks. Batman Beyond the White Knight, number 5 is my book. Excuse me. As I get the cover straight. There we go. Let's see. Script and art by Sean Murphy, colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by And World Design. This is a potential click of the week for me because I've already been enjoying this because I love the Murphyverse as it's being called of Batman. So if you've been keeping up, and you probably haven't, at this point, and I guess I shouldn't spoil too much, but nevertheless, let's just say there is a interesting team up between Bruce Wayne and one Jack Napier Joker, who was the Joker in this universe. Mind you, so Jack Napier's supposed to be dead in this universe, but yet he's still floating around in Bruce Wayne's mind some kind of way. So they still haven't really explained that part and how, or unless I missed something, but I don't think so. They haven't really explained how that is the case. But this is where we are right now. And the reason why it kind of sticks to me like it does is because like Jack is doing some stuff in here that's like, well, wait, if he's pretty much in Bruce's mind, he should not be doing some of the things that he's able to do. But it also lends itself to saying that, okay, there's something else going on here that that we're not seeing, but it's pretty much telling on itself. Let's put it that way. But anyway, the Beyond the White Knight story, if you are, if you know your Batman lore, yes, it is have something to do with Batman Beyond, because Terry McGinnis is in this, and that Batman suit. It doesn't necessarily play the way Justice League and the Batman Beyond animated series would have you go, because they're kind of playing with some things here and there, and with it, but definitely Terry's involved, the suit's involved. Let's just say there's some truth that comes out in the course of this particular issue, and a very touching moment between Napier and Harley at the end of this, although it's slightly one-sided in a way. You had to read the issue to find that out. But there's also some lovely references to other versions of Batman, which come in the form of the Batmobiles, including one potential one joke from Napier about the use of one particular one over the others that was in there. So that was pretty good. Like I said, if you have not checked, if you're a fan of Batman, if you've not checked out the Murphy First books, you should, because they've begun. Now, granted, you have to go back a couple of miniseries, but you know, I think they're probably better than the Prime stuff. Granted, I haven't been reading the Prime stuff, so I don't know, but I've been enjoying this line in itself. Next up is actually a new book. Flawed #1 from Image Comics. Is actually one of six. And the creative team is Chuck Brown, who is the co-writer of Bitterroot. Art by Prenzy, who I'm not familiar with, and letters by Becca Carey. Again, it's an Image book and it's a miniseries. So stop me if you heard this one. Psychiatrist by day, masked vigilante at night. Some would say Punisher-ish. In almost every sense of the word. So we got a comment in the chat from Benji Games 2, says pick this one up today, haven't read it yet. So okay, cool. So I won't spoil too much about it, so I won't say it. As a matter of fact, I probably won't say too much more than just that. But yes, we get introduced to Dr. Jim Ez, who is the main character of the book, and we also get introduced to a couple of other folks, including what looks to be the antagonist that she's going to be dealing with in this miniseries. I safely say that I enjoyed it. There was some, I guess, lettering and art. Probably lettering more so than the art. The art was not bad, but there was a couple of spots where the lettering and art kind of conflicted. Kind of made it slightly hard to read the way I was reading it, but maybe in physical form it probably looks a little bit better. But I think if anything that I said about this book intrigues you, I think it's worth a pickup. I will say that much. So next book is Tim Drake, Robin, #1. So yeah, they gave Tim Drake his own book, which we knew because we had been talking about this. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before. Script by Megan Fitzgerald, art by Riley Rossmo, colors by Lex Luffridge, and letters by Tom Napolitano. Excuse me. So I guess I should say right here and now, Riley Rossmo is the artist of the current Harley Quinn book. Art style works there for me, and granted I haven't been reading too much, but I have seen it. It doesn't quite work for me here. Not saying it's not good, but it's just, I don't know, there's something about it that's kind of distracting in this particular book for me. But we see basically Tim Drake sort of strike on it his own. I guess he had left Wayne Manor or whatever the case may be and got his own place. And he gets into, I'm not sure actually where he is. I'm not sure if he's in Gotham or someplace else. But he's got his own place, got some new neighbors. Apparently there's a character from We Are Robin that shows up in here that's helping him out, but I didn't read We Are Robin, so I don't know too much about that character. And he's already got an antagonist that we don't get to see, that apparently may have come from that DC Pride story that of his. So if you read that, you may, going into this, which probably might want to do, you will have a little more idea of what's going on in this book. I did not read that, so I don't know. But luckily they did reference the fact, they did footnote the fact that it came from, that some things came from that book. So there was that. But overall, outside of the slight distractions with the art, it was intriguing enough for me to say that I will probably see what's going on with the next issue. Let's see. And my last book is Ant-Man number 3 of 4. And it's actually, speaking of Al Ewing, is written by Al Ewing and art by Tom Riley, colors by Jody Belair, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. No, actually I am right. I thought I conflated two different ones, but I was right. So this one has to do with Scott Lang, who's the current Ant-Man, and another character that I did not know that terribly much about, in the name of Black Ant. I've seen him in places, but I did not know what the deal is with the Black Ant. Apparently Black Ant is possibly a android robot, whatever, that was made in the likeness of another Ant-Man, Eric O'Grady, but worse. This kind of touches on that just a little bit, and I wasn't aware of that. But the story revolves around Scott and Cassie Lang, aka Statue. She's going by Stinger now. Excuse me. Having to transport and deal with, I might as well say it. Hank Tron, aka the Ultron that melded itself with Hank Pym, which we hadn't seen in a minute, and I wasn't sure what happened to him after a certain point, after it went out in space. But apparently it must have had one more run-in with some heroes of ours, because we see in the beginning of this that he had been dealt with and put into certain thing, and now they needed to figure out what to do with him. Almost weirdly enough, like Planet Hulk, but not really. There's a slightly similar plan that a couple of heroes kind of come up with, and they need Ant-Man's Scott Lang's help with. But then something happens, and it's all left to Scott and Cassie. And all the while, we still have this other future Ant-Man running around, and who shows up here and there in this book. And we even see at the end of this why potentially he's running around trying to gather all these other Ant-Men up. And it has to do with a character that is in this issue that I have mentioned, or at least a version of a character that comes up in this. Again, this is part 3 or 4, so the end of this book is coming with the next issue. I'm curious to see where this ends, how this is going to end. I've been enjoying it so far, though. That, folks, is it for me. The Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
And we did get one, as I type something in real quick, so apologies for that, folks. Dirt gave us his Kliq of the week, which was a book that I was slightly curious about reading, but haven't and probably won't. I don't know. Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead, #1, which I believe is that Bruce Campbell book. Am I right about that?
I'm pretty sure. If it's Army of the Dead, then yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's co-written by Bruce Campbell, but I can't remember. And did he say anything else about that outside of that was his Kliq?
No.
Okay.
No, but I'm not surprised, given PCN_Dirt's taste in movies. It's not a surprise that that would be appealing to him.
Yeah, it did not surprise me either. So as I let me put up I know I have the stupid thing. Where's the?
A cover?
Yeah. Oh, maybe I don't. Oh, weird. Huh. Okay, I thought I had the cover, but I guess I don't. That's weird. Either way, take our word for it. It's you know, there is a cover for this book. I just don't know where it is.
That's okay.
So it is, yeah.
I wanted to give a quick shout out to.
Sure.
I know I was going to say Tim Dog 98 did not have a click of the week this week, so I did not want to fail to mention our other absentee co-host. But I wanted to give a quick shout out to a couple of the larger books that we did not talk about this week. Specifically, one is the IDW McFarlane Spider-Man Artist Edition, which I flipped through and looks phenomenal. I looked through our review copy. It looks phenomenal. I'm definitely going to have that on my list of things to buy in the near future.
Right.
And the other one is a trade paperback of, it's like a collection of the Rise of Serpentor comics from the Marvel G.I. Joe run, obviously all written by Larry Hama. So I flipped through that, and the very first issue that's in that collection is, the phenomenal G.I. Joe yearbook number 3, the very first story that is, with the October Guard with art by Michael Golden, which we just talked about, the other week, like a few weeks ago.
Yep.
I also wanted to mention that they highlight a bunch of issues that have some phenomenal Mike Zeck covers. Like, I actually bought those books just based on the covers. I wasn't necessarily in tune with the G.I. Joe story at the time. I think it was like late elementary school, but and I was probably phasing out of getting the toys at that point. But ultimately, those covers were killer. Like, seriously, like Mike Zeck had some incredible G.I. Joe covers back in the day.
Right.
So I would recommend people look those up. If you can get them in the back issue bin, good luck. Those are some great looking comics. The interiors, it's a little tougher, but the covers are phenomenal. If you ever find Mike Zeck at a Comic-Con, he often has prints of those covers. I've got a bunch of them for sale, and they are incredible.
Nice.
I will jump on. I will get. After all saying all that, I'm going to quickly just say that my click of the week is Amazing Spider-Man number 10. I talked about it before. It was really the one book that stood out to me this week. It was so emotional. Yeah. Even I got a little misty-eyed reading the next to last part when Peter's getting judged and kind of justifying some of his recent actions. So at the end of the day, I thought that was a pretty strong book, and I still think it's because Zeb Wells was using the storytelling trope of being judged, because most of the time I'm very frustrated with his story, his Spider-Man story. So I will conclude my pick by saying that.
Right. So we got a couple of comments, or got a question in the comment in the chat before we go on to because I'm still kind of actually thinking about it in mind, so this is good. Benji Games 2 asks, did you guys pick up the TMNT, the Armageddon game? Did not pick it up, but we do have a review copy of it, and I said I was going to check it out, but I didn't get a chance to before the show.
That's a video game, right?
No. It's a new, I think it's a new limited series. Basically, because we talked about it on the show before, it's basically Shredder's leading the Turtles now, and there's some things going on, and it's like there's this new.
Oh, it's out today. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that came out today.
It is.
Yeah. So, but no, I haven't had a chance to read it because I was looking at when I was looking at covers, and I saw that out there, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get around to it, but I never did. So, Benji Games
we talked about it. I know we talked about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Benji Games 2 also says Old Dog was a good read, which that was the number one of that came out this week as well. But I don't think either one, no one has read that on the, none of the hosts read that. I'm fairly certain because no one's mentioned it. So I might check that one out, but I wasn't, like I said, when I was looking at it, I was like, I'm not sure if that was something I would care that much about. But the cover seemed interesting. I
It's
would say
something
that
to
much.
look into. You know, we generally do try to read #1 issues.
Yeah.
So, you know, thanks for that. You know, thanks for that, those recommendations, and you know, we'll try to get up on those this week.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of another book, so really quick before we go on and I get mine. Blood Syndicate came out. #5 came out this week, and I've been meaning to catch up on that. And I'm also Deathstroke came out. Those are two books I'm into to check out. Deathstroke Inc. because of that whole year one storyline that's going on, which has been pretty good so far. And also, I guess this does count as a big book. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers #100 came out this week.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. Well, it's so yeah. They had this whole Charge to 100 storyline, and I believe this is the last book of the writer Ryan Parrott. Before I guess they change creative teams and go in direction. So there is that. Power Rangers line I've been meaning to catch back up on also since the first run, but I didn't. But I have not yet because like I said, they've been doubleable books and whatnot. That being said,
I was just going to add that Old Dog from Image is creator owned by Declan Shalvey.
Yes.
So I'm going to take a look at that.
Yeah, because you know, we can safely say we like his work with Strange Academy and other stuff. You know, wait.
Yeah, he did Moon Knight.
No, Moon Knight. Not that's.
Right. He did. You know, Declan Shalvey did art on Moon Knight. You know, that's where he really stood out to us.
Right.
And he's done some other, you know, for hire, you know, work for hire stuff. But it's nice that he's got something creator owned out right now.
Well, I mean, technically he's got two, because Time Before Time is also his. He's co-writing with that with somebody. Yeah, and I've been reading that book, and I've been looking. Yeah.
Cool.
So, Benji Games 2 also says he picked up MMPR 100, next in line to read to him for them. Excuse me, I don't know if you're male or female, so apologies. That being said, for my click of the week, Flawed was actually pretty good, but I think I'm actually going to go with, and I did enjoy Amazing Spider-Man #10 also, but I think I'm going to go with Batman Beyond the White Knight #5. Like I said, I've been enjoying the stuff from the Murphyverse, and this was a really good issue, I think. So, which I think I probably said that about pretty much most of them.
Pretty much.
So, you know, that's not saying that much for me, but I enjoy it. That being said, we are going to push on to the news section, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
Oh, I gotta fix your camera. What happened? First, we get into the cinematic news like we do every week about this time. First up, some sad news. Adult Swim classics will be removed from HBO Max soon. It's going away, like stuff like Laser Wolf and looks like Tig-Tone. I've never heard of that one, but I have heard of Laser Wolf. Amongst the other stuff that's already been taken out of from the service, including apparently a bunch of episodes of Sesame Street for some stupid reason. I'm like, why Sesame Street gotta get the X? That's crazy. But yeah, so there's that. Let me see. It says here that not sure what else may be on the chopping block. And I guess classic is in the sense of whoever wrote this article, because like I said, both of those, when I think of Adult Swim, I don't necessarily think of those. But then again, I'm a little older than the Adult Swim crowd at large, so some of the stuff that kind of came after. Yeah, so some of that stuff that kind of came later on that were uniquely Adult Swim stuff. It's kind of a little beyond me.
Yep.
Outside of the earlier offerings. Like I would imagine Loiter Squad is probably going to get on the block. That's probably the last one that I knew of. So, either way, next up,
DC's Dead Boy Detective still has life at HBO Max, and it has found its latest star. A report from Variety revealed that the series has cast the White Lotus and Euphoria's Lucas Gage in the recurring role of the Cat King, described as a charming trickster and itinerant cat spirit who takes keen interest in Edwin. Okay, so this role was previously held by Alexander Calvert in the latest instance of the series recasting. So this series was announced to be in the works last year after different incarnations of the character were showcased on a season 3 episode of Doom Patrol. I haven't watched that in ages. The characters originally debuted within the pages of The Sandman and were created by Neil Gaiman and Matt Wagner, which still leads me to a big collective, at least about DC's Dead Boy Detectives. Who?
Yes, same here. Next up, though, speaking of Doom Patrol Season 4 has a first look and welcomes a new character to the show, apparently. Casey Brink, who is aka Space Case. I do not know much about Doom Patrol's characters outside of the initial folks, and even then, I don't know too much about them. So, but apparently, yes, they are introducing Space Case to the show, and it's not just going to be like a cameo appearance. Apparently, they're going to be a part of the show. And according to the showrunner, Jeremy Carver, says, we finally found a way to bring her into the story in a way that feels wholly organic to us, even though to someone who's never seen Doom Patrol, it might seem like a little bat bleep insane. To us, it fits perfectly, and it's not just a cameo. So, there you go. Next.
All right, Batgirl star Leslie Grace shares some amazing behind-the-scenes montage. So in a TikTok video. So she shared a TikTok video set to Evergreen's "You Didn't Deserve Me at All," where she showed 15 seconds worth of training montages and other behind-the-scenes looks of the never-to-be-seen movie. Apparently.
Yeah, sad state of affairs in that whole situation. Won't even talk about the Ezra Miller situation. We've talked about that a good bit, but there is some things apparently going on with that. But moving right along, speaking of Warner Brothers Discovery is being sued for lying about inflating their HBO subscriber numbers.
Nice.
Yeah, and this was pre-merger, apparently. So according to a report from The Wrap, a lawsuit on behalf of the Collinsville Police Pension Board, a shareholder of Warner Brothers Discovery, was filed alleging the streamer exaggerated the HBO Max's subscriber numbers by approximately 10 million. According to the lawsuit, Warner Media falsified the subscriber number by, quote unquote, by including as subscribers AT&T customers who had received bundled access to HBO Max but had not signed onto the service. Because I was about to say, I think I'm one of those people, but I did ended up actually signing on to it once I found out I had that access. I was about to say I didn't think that was going to be a inflation, but I guess I can see where it is, because if they have it and not signing up to it, and you're saying this one thing, then yeah, that's a thing. Anyway, it also states that hundreds of thousands of people could join the lawsuit due to a large number of Warner Brothers Discovery shares that exist. So yeah, more bad news coming out of Warner Brothers Discovery. Next up, and of course, this particular article falls to the attorney in the attorney that was unintentional.
Code. So Disney has lost its bid to dismiss the Muppet Babies reboot copyright suit, and I'm going to cut to the chase here. The bottom line here is that Disney was trying to dismiss a copyright infringement suit brought by one of the screenwriters of the original series, basically the screenwriter Jeffrey Scott claimed that Disney in the 2018 reboot of Muppet Babies was infringing on some of the original concepts that he came up with for the OG Muppet Babies without giving him, without credit or payment to him. And bottom line here is that's no bueno, no good. That's a big fat
Nope.
Because at the end of the day, they tried to skirt around it by, basically saying that this is a reboot one. What this writer is basically suing on is the character that was essentially created out of whole sock cloth, and that's a big hint as to which character I'm referring to for the Muppet Baby show, and wasn't one of the original Henson characters, right? Which is, obviously not something that he would have any sort of claim to. Those characters are not part of his claim. It's more the nanny character. There it is.
Right.
I gave it away.
Right.
But bottom line here is the case is still early in its proceedings. Obviously, you can bring a motion to dismiss at any time, but ultimately, this is, still going to be an ongoing thing for a little while.
Yeah. If we hear any more about it, sure, we'll bring it up. So I've read this article, and I was like, obviously, if you know Muppet Babies, then hey, you know the character of Nanny. That's one thing. But they took time to mention here that about the socks changing patterns every episode. And I'm sitting like, why is that a big deal? But I mean, obviously, it doesn't really take much to kind of, be able to sue off of. But that was just what they used in the. I guess an example they use in the beginning of this article it's much more than that. But I just find that part kind of funny. Either way, Werewolf by Night. Well, apparently Marvel Studios thought that Werewolf by Night special would receive a TVMA rating because it's hard-tinged and still not out yet, which brings to mind another article I saw but that I didn't bring up. It was kind of bully. But anyway, according to Werewolf by Night Helmer Michael Giacchino, he and executives always thought the one shot would get a more mature rating compared to the typical TV 14 Marvel fare. Quote, we always assumed that would be TVMA, but I wasn't always involved with what was happening on that end of the terms of ratings and all that. He said with an interview, he also says that I'm not so sure, but I am sure that you are absolutely right that the black and white did help keep us within a certain range. I guess that was with something that was asked within the article. Also going back to
Night dropping, is that next week?
I want to say, actually yes, October 7th is when that drops. And it's already been rated apparently, because I mean critics got a hold of it, so that's why. And
yeah, so it's going to be out next week, folks.
Yeah.
Basically coinciding with the start of New York Comic Con next week. So I won't be at Thursday, so we will be broadcasting next week. But look forward to us to us talking about New York Comic Con news the week after.
And Werewolf by Night, if either one of us watches it, because it comes out the day after we record, unless for some reason we end up recording on a Friday.
I was about to say not for that week.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah. I was about to say I don't know if we'd be delaying it for that week because I don't have.
No. I'm just saying if something come up, but
I see.
Yeah. Because it has happened in the last month.
It does. Listen, gremlins do pop up, folks. They do pop up. So Roddykat is correct in that regard. All right. Next up, new Black Panther, Wakanda Forever images spotlight Namor's impressive costume. I mean, we've seen a lot of them. I've seen some toys where he has like this headdress that pops open, to reveal his head.
Yeah.
In toy form. So bottom line is the images here show Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda, Letitia Wright as Princess Shuri, and Namor, and that's fine. What's funny about that? Remember that controversy with Mike Deodato?
Yeah, we were talking about last week. Right? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's pretty interesting that that Tenoch Huerta is pretty, ripped up front, but he definitely, I think, should have focused a little bit on his back. And so I feel bad, like, kind of jumping on that train, because he looks pretty cut from the front.
Oh yeah.
And it's just a shame, right?
Oh man. Yeah, you definitely, if you checked this out last week, we talked about that whole thing.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say over the last 3 weeks, I think, like it's popped up here and there.
Yeah.
So, like the original tweet or the original Insta post, I think we talked about, because I saw it when it first came out.
Right.
When you first put it up, so.
Right. Next up, though, the Marvel's director confirmed the comic book power Monica Rambeau won't have, which is weird because like you hear the Marvels, and one, you think about the book, and two, I guess you could say it's Captain Marvel's the Marvel, but that's not the title of the movie. Either way, Nia DaCosta, who's directing the movie, starring Teyonah Parris and of course Brie Larson and of course Iman Vellani, as Carol Danvers and Kamala Khan respectively, shared her excitement about building on the MCU's version of Monica in an interview at D23. That's a little redundant how they got this here, but we're not going to talk about that. While the other two leads' superpowers have been firmly established on screen, Monica's abilities haven't yet, which is true because we only saw a little glimpse at the end of WandaVision. So we don't necessarily know the full extent of what she's going to have. But anyway, it says here that they basically have room to get creative with her powers, and I'm hoping not too creative. And I think I did see like a blurb saying that she's basically, if you are of a certain vintage, you remember when she was leading the Avengers and what happened at the end of her run when she almost died, and in the way that she almost died. Basically, they're not doing that, sounds like. So that's great, because I did not want to see that again. But it says here that DaCosta went on to specify of what went into determining Monica's power set. With the quote here says, with Monica, we really got to talk about which of her thousands of powers in the comics, and that's a little much, it's not really, but do we want to make canon in the MCU? So, there's a part in the comics where she realizes she's immortal, which I think that's more of a recent thing, and she freaks out, and then she goes into... I don't remember this. Well, so this was, I want to say that is more of, that was kind of established in the Ultimates, Al Ewing's run of the Ultimates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this next part is talking about that Avengers run that I just mentioned. Well, so basically it's like there's a part in the comics where she realizes she's immortal and she freaks out, and then she goes intangible in water and her atoms scatter across the ocean. Unless that happened in Ultimate, but I don't remember that happened. But I do remember that happened in that Avengers run, because she was trying to take down Namorita, or Namora, excuse me, whatever. And that takes her life forever to put herself back together. Yeah, that was definitely that Avengers run, that part, because like when they finally found her, she was like old and withered, and lost a lot of mass and stuff like that. I remember that one right well because I was mad about that, because that's when Dr. Druid took over leading the team. And was trying to get her from. Yeah, I know. Like that's how I remember that, because he was we're not gonna talk about that because I hated that. I was like, this beach, and he got what he wanted until whatever happened to him, which I do slightly remember.
All right.
Having to do with Nebula of all people, by the way. So anyway, next up.
Next up, in some of the biggest news that came out this past week, Deadpool will join the Marvel Cinematic Universe on September 6th, 2024, in an announcement made by Ryan Reynolds on his personal Twitter account, which had a video with him on a sofa telling fans he was extremely sad about missing D23, where there was no Deadpool 3 announcement. But then he shared that, he was working on some stuff, and then Hugh Jackman comes through and he asked Hugh Jackman, hey, would you want to play Wolverine again? And Jackman appears briefly and says, sure, while he's going up the stairs.
Yeah, it was basically a walkthrough.
Right. So, at the end of the day, I think the internet broke a little bit when this announcement came out. Everyone was posting about it, happy. I don't really care. I cannot wait for them to recast Wolverine with somebody shorter, stouter, and more surly. But that's just me.
He's been on this for a minute,
I know
folks.
there's tons of the women's that love, and maybe some of the men's. I'm talking about, I'm specifically calling some language from a particular review show.
Okay.
Hated it.
Right, that love Hugh Jackman, period. Right, they just love Hugh Jackman. They don't have any sort of connection to the comic books. So I was always off put by him being too tall. It just didn't seem right. It just looked wrong to me.
Yeah. Well, apparently you
got over it because it was a
because of what we had.
Performance, right? They did the best with what they had.
Right.
But X-Men movies as a whole were just very disappointing to me.
Well, they were disappointing just in general, but that's neither here nor there. Apparently,
I know a lot of the people. I was just gonna say a lot of the people who are fans of Hugh Jackman just look at me and they go, "Cry me a river."
Well done. You was gonna find a way to put that in there when you just got that. So apparently, Benji Games 2 also agrees with you about the Hugh Jackman stuff. And he also says, let's go Deadpool 3. Like, y'all, so folks that don't know, and Agent 70 knows this well, so what I'm about to say is no surprise to me. I don't care that much about Deadpool. I like the first movie, don't get me wrong. I didn't watch the second one, but Deadpool as a whole, and as a matter of fact, Ryan Reynolds, don't really care for him that much either.
I understand.
But he plays the role, as much as I hate to say it, he plays that role well, but then again, he's pretty much him just doing what he's been doing his whole career.
Well, the best part about it, and let's not get things twisted, is that he enjoys the role.
Oh yeah, totally.
Which really makes a difference for him, right? And for the character, because he just enjoys playing the role.
Right.
Whereas yourself and myself aren't necessarily fans of the character, but we can appreciate that he enjoys playing the role.
Sure.
So.
But again, like I said, he's pretty much playing himself in a way because
to a
like his
exactly
right.
With extremes, right? To certain extremes,
right?
Course.
So Benji Games 2 says I like Deadpool because it's completely different. Yeah, I mean at the time it came out, if you're talking about the movie, at the time it came out, it was definitely different from what we were getting from other superhero movies in general and the Marvel stuff at the time, I guess also. So yeah, definitely. If anything, that was in the mutant part of the of the stuff, definitely different from what we've gotten before then, put it that way. So so I can agree with that. That being said, yeah, it kind of blew up the internet just slightly. So just with that news. And again, I hadn't seen 2 because I don't remember. I guess it was a cameo in 2, right? That Hugh Jackman did.
I think so.
Yeah, so I don't know. I hadn't seen it. Either way, Marvel's Blade loses director Bassem Tariq 2 months ahead of production.
Emotional damage.
Okay, sure.
I mean, I was pretty emotionally damaged when I heard this story. I was like, what?
Yeah, I was kind of bummed because I was like, okay, what's going on with this? But according to this article, Tariq's departure comes as a shock, not just to us apparently, but to other folks. As production was set to begin in November on Marvel's upcoming feature about Blade, it goes on to say different steps. So we don't have to say all of that. So you already know who it stars. We don't even have to go through all of that. Blade movie can't catch a break. Yeah, Benji. Yeah, I agree with you there. I know it's been troubled so this whole time. But yeah, so he says here that he's will no longer be helming Blade, but sources close to the situation state that Tariq will remain attached to the project as an executive producer. So it's kind of like dude with Fast and Furious in that respect.
Justice Lint.
Yeah. So yeah.
Lint, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like he's not directing anymore, but he's still attached as a producer, which so it kind of makes me wonder if it's a similar situation where there was like creative differences or something. We don't know because apparently this article doesn't necessarily go into why he's stepping away from the thing. So maybe we'll find out at some time soon. I don't know. But yeah, and this article kind of goes on to say that he's not the first person to step down from the project, and other people, also including Scott Derrickson and Sam Raimi. So yeah, hopefully it comes out. Hopefully it's going to be good. Hopefully they things work out for who's involved.
Right. We all hope that they're able to get a solid director for this because that's what it needs.
Yeah,
exactly. As much as the DC movies talk, as the DC and Warner Brothers like to talk about them being, the studio for directors for superhero films, I still think that the Marvel formula really does rely in large part on capable directors.
Yes.
It's not just Kevin Feige. It really does rely on capable directors directing some of these projects.
Well, once, it's kind of one of those things, as much as I hate to say it, like once they find the numbers bear out with who they went with, then they will go with that person again. Like we've seen that with the Russos. We've seen that with John Waits with the Spidey movies, that kind of thing. Not saying they weren't capable before that, but I'm just saying it's just a fact of the matter. It's like, hey, you have given us results, and we're going to keep messing with you. There's not too many times they go, once they figure that out, they go outside of that. So, next up though.
All right. So this is some weird stuff. The Defenders, your quote-unquote star Finn Jones wants to see Jessica Henwick play Iron Fist in Shang-Chi 2. So basically he says it would be nice to see Colleen come back and still have that Iron Fist as well. This is following up on, I guess, how Iron Fist season 2 ended.
Neither do I, but I don't think I got to the end of Iron Fist season 2. So
yeah, I don't. Oh, God.
Oh, actually, maybe I did, and I just don't remember. Because did that come out before or after the Defenders?
Away with you.
Yeah. Oh, so there was another article in relation to this that I did not put in there because, and I'm probably from the same interview that basically said that Finn Jones would love to come back as the character in like a Heroes for Hire situation.
Wait.
And I was like, I didn't want to put that energy in the air, so that's why I went with this one. I was going to go with this one anyway, because I would also love to see Jessica Henwick as Iron Fist. You can get rid of Finn Jones, though. Just saying. Just keep her. You ain't him. But, she'd be playing Colleen getting the Iron Fist, which still have no problem with. But the only problem I would have with is they would put this in the comics, which actually still wouldn't be bad considering what the Iron Fist we got already right now.
Swordmaster. I mean, that's just the way I react to it.
Yeah, I mean, Pay is right there. We've said this one too many times about that. Pay was right there.
Hiya.
Okay, that was perfect. Anyway, next up.
What's that?
That's it. That was perfect. Anyway, next up.
Yeah, seriously. All right. Yeah, you got next.
Iron Fist season 3 would have adapted the character's most popular comics run. Let's see. I believe this may also be in that same interview with comicbook.com, but you know how they like to break things up. So it says here that Finn Jones says he loves Danny Rand, loved the character, loved everything around her, thinks he's such a jewel, and so did the showrunner Raven Metzer. It sounds like the second season was really all about course correction. It was like how we just change the course and the conversation around the show and just bring it up to a place that we can feel proud of, he adds. And then we can take the show in the direction we really wanted to take it, which was Immortal Iron Fist, basically. So they wanted to adapt the Immortal Iron Fist story with Orson Randall for the third season.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, by all accounts, it was a good, it was a great story. Yeah, so.
I was about to say, did you never read it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's excellent stuff.
Yeah, that's Fraction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fraction of Brubaker at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's an excellent run. So
yeah.
I own all those. So that's some great stuff. That's where they introduced all the immortal weapons.
Right.
From the immortal cities. So.
Right.
All right. Next up, Captain America: New World Order star Anthony Mackie explained that he has one particular superhero in mind that has not yet already been cast. So he grew up as a fan of the Hulk. He always wanted to be the Incredible Hulk, but now if he could play another superhero, it would be Panthro from Thundercats, the blue dude. Yeah, he's big on Thundercats. That's his superhero. If they ever make that movie and it's not him, he's shutting that shit down. So we all know Panthro was one of the black characters in Thundercats. So it makes a lot of sense.
I wouldn't say he was the black character.
No, it was one of the black characters.
Wait, what was
I
the
think
other
there were more. When they made
some of the later ones?
Yeah, I think so. But I don't remember. Like now you're testing my Thundercats memory, and I can't.
You might
remember.
be right. I think it's one of the later ones that might have been. But he was pretty much Panthro was the black character in it originally, though. First of all, I'm just gonna say Anthony Mackie might be a little light to be playing. I mean, I'm sure he works out, but he might be a little not light as in skin tone, but light as in muscle to be playing Panthro. Because Panthro was granted there's going to be some change for live action if they ever do it, because they've been trying to get Thundercats movie off the ground for like probably a good 20 years or more.
Right. I mean, it's so hard to cast like 6 Chris Hemsworths, when you're dealing with superheroes. So that's why they all look a little different. Yeah,
I know that. But I'm just saying, and I can't remember how tall he is either, because, that would be the other thing. But then again, I guess that's as we have just said with Wolverine, that's a factor they never really cared about.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, but the thing is, some characters are meant to be smaller, right? Like Wily Kit and Wily Cat are supposed to be young, so they're going to be smaller characters.
I mean, Lion-O also was kind of
no. I was about to say the early Lion-O.
Right.
Young Lion-O is small. Grown-up Lion-O is gigantic.
He wasn't he was cut, yes, but he wasn't like big like Panthro big. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, he had grown up, and yes, he had gotten a lot muscular, but he wasn't like that much thicker.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like Tiger is like in between.
Right.
Like less than. He's actually smaller than Lion-O, if I recall.
Right. So, and Chitara, Chitara is what she was. So
yeah.
without going too much farther into that.
The stuff of prepubescent boys' dream. Anyway.
Indeed. So yeah, like I said, I don't even know if they're like I said, they've been trying to get Thundercats off in some way, shape, or form for the last 20, 30 years. We don't even know whether that's ever going to happen, and I don't know. I just can't see him with it. But hey, if it does happen and he ends up with him in it, I'd just be glad to see it. Hopefully, it's good. That's pretty much the same about that. It's got to be better than that damn Masters of the Universe movie, which is not really saying much because there's anything could be better than that at this point. Next up, though, James Earl Jones officially retires as Star Wars' Darth Vader. Wait, you have the sound effect for this, don't you?
Oh, you want? Hold on, I wasn't sure which to play.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I was thinking the other one, but there we go. So
I wasn't sure. I'm not a fan of that one just because of the context that it's coming from.
True, but still.
That's why I don't play that one that much.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes, I agree. But in this case, I feel like it still kind of works.
That's just sort of my thing. That's my reasoning behind not really using it that much.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, so apparently, I remember reading this earlier, but so James Earl Jones has signed over his voice rights to Darth Vader character. And the last couple of projects that Darth Vader has shown up in, I believe they have been using basically a synthesizer for his voice.
Right, using old recordings of his to
Right.
synthesize speech.
So it hasn't been, yeah. So technically, it hasn't been Germs or Drums for a minute now.
It's probably
But-
just meant to take care of it because he is, getting.
Yeah,
on
he's
in
kind of
age.
up there. Yeah. Like I said, he's definitely among the national treasures. And, so we don't want anything to happen to him. But yeah, he's getting a little older there. But it says here, despite his retirement for the role, both studios have reportedly discussed their plans for Vader with Jones and quote unquote heed his advice on how to stay on the right course. I wish they had heeded him. I don't know if he had anything to do with that, and I know who wrote this joke, but that joke from the end of Rogue One, that whole choke on your ambitions thing, which was very stupid and very un-Vader like, personally speaking.
Yeah.
I could have done something with that, but nevertheless, it is what it is. So yeah, the voice of Vader is retiring, and they're going to squawk box it for the foreseeable future. Unless I know, I heard the rumor that they're trying to find somebody else to do that. I know there's some folks that can do the voice. Obviously you need some modulation, but can do the can do the voice. There's still some voice actors out there can do that stuff. So we'll see. Nevertheless, next up.
Right. So I wasn't sure why this article was here, and then I realized why. Louise Fletcher has passed away. The Oscar-winning One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest actor was 88. So I remember watching this movie, obviously well after its release in 1975, and and I read the book, so I was familiar with the character of Nurse Ratched. So it's sad she passed away at the age of 88 in her house in France. Her death was announced to Deadline by her family through her agent. So she passed away in her sleep. So hopefully it was peaceful.
Yeah.
One role that now I understand why this actress was mentioned in our show is that later in life, and I recognize her from the picture of her as an older actress. Is that later in life she had a recurring role on Star Trek Deep Space Nine as the Bajoran religious leader Kai Wynn Adami, who often butted heads with Commander and then Captain Benjamin Sisko.
That's a polite way of saying that. Sure.
Listen, that's like I said, butted heads.
Yeah. Kai Wynn, rest in peace, Louise Fletcher. But Kai Wynn was one of those characters where if you say name a Star Trek character specifically from DS9 that you love to hate, some would say Roddykat. They would be wrong. He'd be in the running, but no, it would definitely be Kai Wynn, because she was just man, like, you loved her, but you also hated her at the same time. Basically, it was like, oh wow, you're a greasy woman. But like I said, I saw this and I was kind of heartbroken about this. It was like, I love that character, and again, this is a character you love to hate. And obviously, if you've been around here long enough, I love me some DS9. So this is where it struck a chord for me. And I've also remember seeing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because we were very young when that movie came out.
I was about to say, I don't know if I was born yet.
I was.
So yeah, but you were super young.
I was like 2 when that movie came out.
I was on the way, I think, at that when this movie was released. So
yeah.
But in any event, next up.
Boop.
You got next up.
Yep. The Boys season 4 Carnage will reportedly surprise everyone. I haven't seen season 1, so The Boys star Jesse T. Usher has teased the level of carnage fans should expect from the Prime Video series in the series' upcoming 4th season. In early September, the Twitter account for The Boys tweeted a picture of a blood-covered Usher in the costume of A.Train, which is his character. During an interview with Collider, Usher was asked about the tweet and whether it meant that season 4 would feature a great amount of carnage involving A.Train than previous seasons. Quote, I can't say if it's more or less, but I can say it's that it's surprising. It's surprising. Usher revealed. And every time I hear that Usher, I keep thinking of the singer. But anyway, it's surprising for everyone. That's all I can say. So there you go. And actually, before we go on to the next one, some breaking news I meant to bring up before this, actually. So if you indulge me for a second, I will bring it up. Marvel's Armor Wars upgraded from Disney Plus series to feature film.
Whoa!
Yeah, which I could have sworn it was a feature film first, and then they made it into a series, but now it's back to a series again. I'm not sure. Either way, as reported by the Hollywood Reporter, the project will retain its star Don Cheadle, reprising his long-running Marvel Cinematic user. He's Roddy, folks. Come on, we know this. This is me being like Agent 70 with Feige, but as well as its head writer Yasir Lester. Although no release window for Armor Wars had been announced when the change was made, it's expected that it will now be pushed back in the Marvel slate of upcoming features. So maybe that's why they didn't show or say much about it at D23, because they were making this change.
Probably.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be a movie now. Go figure. I'm curious as to why they decided to change it. And I don't think this article says as much, but there you go. All right, back to news. And actually, I'm kind of glad they just haven't got this one.
Of course. So apparently, filmmaker John Carpenter is, we know him as an undeniable master of horror movies, but he loves cinema, beyond just the blood and guts of that particular genre. Yeah. And he is apparently immensely passionate about monster movies. So in a press release, John Carpenter is a huge Godzilla fan. He sits down to present his 4 favorite monster films directed by Ishiro Honda: Godzilla, the uncut Japanese original, Gojira, otherwise known as Gojira, Rodan, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, and The War of the Gargantuas. John Carpenter will make appearances throughout to discuss his great love and admiration for the franchise, and this is going to be on Shout Factory or Scream Factory TV. That is Scream Factory TV. I guess this is an online thing.
Yes. So Shout Factory does have a Twitch channel, and they also, I think, they do like the online streaming apps. I think they have a couple, but they also on like Roku and places like that as a channel, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
Matter of fact, I know this was the case.
This will be spanning from November 3rd, then November 4th, November 5th, and November 6th. So it's going to be right after Halloween.
Mm-hmm. Which, hey, why not?
Listen, I love these movies, although I've
do.
never really sat down to watch War of the Gargantuas since I was a kid.
Right.
It is on HBO Max.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it recently, but I think they might have shown it on Shop Factory's Twitch channel at some point recently, but I don't remember. Yeah, I didn't know Carpenter was a big Godzilla fan, though, but and I know he loves movies, so.
Sure. So, but shout out to John Carpenter for, flying this particular geek flag.
And again, that kicks off on November 3rd. It's called the Masters of Monsters Marathon, which is a mouthful. Next up, oh no, we're not there yet. Netflix not moving forward with Grendel series, which I don't remember them having. So Grendel was a comic book. I don't think. Did you read it? I don't.
I didn't really. I wasn't ever able to get into it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sure. I'm pretty sure I never read it either. But Deadline reported that Matt Wagner's Masked Vigilante won't be seeing the light of day.
I was about to say, don't attribute this to Matt Wang. He's just gonna get a big hit. He's gonna be like, "Where's my money at?" Right.
Shout out to the friend of the show, Matt Wang, not Matt Wagner. We don't know that dude, but Matt Wagner is the one that's helming this apparently, or was, I guess. Says wouldn't be seeing the light of day on Netflix, but it doesn't mean that it's the end of the line for Grendel. Says the series is being shopped around at a different home, like many other projects are doing recently. Let's see. It says, according to this article, Dark Horse Comics fans have been looking forward to the 8 episodes. Let's see. Abu Bakr, excuse me, oh Lord, I'm sorry, apologize. Abu Bakr Ali was going to be the title role, And Resident Evil series creator Andrew Dabb was writing the treatment as well. So, and apparently they had already filmed some episodes, so the fact that it's no longer going to be on Netflix is, according to this article, baffling. So, but it also says production's not completed, so who knows what's going on. Next up.
All right, so fans of Chris Hemsworth are happy that Extraction 2, the follow-up to that first Extraction movie, which proved to be a hit for him and for Netflix, footage from this sequel dropped, and apparently people are happy about it. Good for him.
Yeah, I didn't watch this this first look footage, and I actually liked the first Extraction. It was a serviceable action movie. Yeah,
it was a good action movie.
So, and at the end, you knew it was coming back. So whether so it was just a matter of when. So, so I had to check this out and see what it was, or what's going on there. The Witcher Blood Origin will launch Christmas Day, and The Witcher Season 3 is going to launch next summer. The Witcher Blood Origin is the new series that's starring Michelle Yeoh that is coming, or she's a part of it. I'm not sure if she's like the main star, but apparently during Netflix's fan event Tudum, which I think that last announcement came out of also, the streaming service announced that their prequel series, the Witcher Blood Origin, would launch on the day that I mentioned, which was Christmas Day. There wasn't a trailer for either series, either Season 3 or Blood Origin, but there were posters for both that I think are probably a part of this article. So there you go. Next up, so we talked about this last week. Netflix has shared Netflix has shared the full cast list for its upcoming Avatar: The Last Airbender live-action adaptation. There's lots of big names like Star Trek legend George Takei. We have praise Amber Midthunder, from the recent Hulu release, which is really good. Who's going to play Princess Yue, the spiritual leader of the Northern Water Tribe. Danny Putty, who is best known for playing Abed in Community and his role in Mythic Quest, is joining the production as the Mechanist. There's a bunch of people here who have some notoriety. So Roddykat is going to scroll through this. You'll recognize some of these names, and we've talked about some of them before. Well, yes, because James C, I can't remember. I'm not sure how his name's pronounced, so apologize. He is reprising his role as the cabbage guy. My cabbages, which Agent 7 would not know about because he hasn't seen Avatar yet. But I think he said it was on his list. It's way down on my list. Should bump that up a little bit. I'm just saying. It's a good show. Way down on the list. Oh, so yeah, and so there are some other notable additions. I'm not going to go through all this, but it's apparently Tamla Tamida. It's a lot of people. Yeah, Tamla Tamida, Daniel Day Kim, which I thought that was already announced. That was early. But the point is, that's what I thought. That was the previously revealed, but the full list includes a bunch of the newer names like Randall Duck Kim, right? Yep. These are names that I don't even remember us talking about that I see here. Yeah, some of them definitely we hadn't talked about. Yeah, I mean we just mentioned like Utkarsh Ambudkar coming on like I think last week or 2 weeks ago. So yeah, these are all just not coming out. So now there's a full list out now. Again, if you're watching the video version of the show, you can see the list right there. If you haven't already seen this list and freaked out for the good. A. Martinez is a name I hadn't seen in so long. Well, I've seen recently, but I'm happy to see him still getting work. Yep. But moving right along, we are going to get into the anime corner. Alrighty. And in honor of some anime that I have been eagerly awaiting coming out this weekend.
United States, stay here, come out!
We're going to see All Might come back soon. Yes. Indeed. All Might! So yeah, hit it. All right, so next up is wait, so did you not want to talk about everything coming to Crunchyroll?
No, you do it. Yeah, I wanted you to do it.
Oh, you wanted me to do it. Oh, okay, because it was your turn. So let me see here. Because I hadn't pulled it up. One second. All right. So simulcasts that are continuing from the summer 2022 anime season. So we just had some drop on September 24th. I'm the villainess, so I'm taming the final boss, apparently. September 29th, the day of our recording, Legend of the Galactic Heroes dropped, apparently. October 1st, this is the big news. My Hero Academia Season 6 is dropping, as well as Spy X Family. This is the second half of the opening season, so a lot of us are happy about this. Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out Season 2 is dropping also on Saturday. Berserk, the Golden Age arc, Memorial Edition. Okay, I mean, I started watching some of that. I don't know where this edition is going to fit into how I've watched it so far. It's kind of a tough watch, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a thing.
You know, there's a couple things coming out also this weekend. I'm just gonna say the names real quick.
Skip some of them.
Yeah. Pop Team Epic Season 2 and Raven of the Inner Peace. October 2nd, Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch, Beast Tamer, Idolish 7, Third Beat, and October 4th is going to have Shinobi no Itoki and Vaz Rock, October 5th. Wow. Mob Psycho 103. Wow. Do It Yourself, Muv Love, Alternative Season 2, The Human Crazy University. October. Wow, there's a bunch of stuff coming out. October 7th, we got stuff. Legend of Mana, The Teardrop Crystal. October 8th, Blue Lock, Boshi, The Rock. Welcome to Demon School. Wow, October 11th, Chainsaw Man. I know people waiting for Chainsaw Man on October 11th.
Mm-hmm.
October 23rd, To Your Eternity Season 2. And there's some new OVAs and TV specials also coming out in November. All right, cool.
Yeah. So obviously the notable ones being the aforementioned My Hero and Chainsaw Man, and for myself the
Spy X Family.
That too, but also Gundam.
Yeah.
New Gundam series.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of Gundam. You know, it's you know, like it stopped being like high on my priority because, you know, it's less about cool robot fights and more anti-war.
It's pretty much always been that way.
I know. It's semi-disappointing as a Voltron kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. That's, and I think
come on, big robot battles.
I think you were warned about this prior to going into that. Yeah, so I'm fairly certain of that. But yeah, there are some cool robot fights, but at the same time, it's definitely more political and war is hell and all that kind of goodness.
Exactly.
So, at any rate, looking forward to this new crop of stuff. I still hadn't caught up on My Hero yet, and this next one that I am about to talk about, which is Bleach 1,000 Year War, 1,000 Year Blood War, drops a short but sweet trailer. And I was going to look into this, but I was like, I don't know if it was going to affect the fact that I have not caught up on Bleach yet. But I did see a little bit of it, and it was a short trailer anyway. So I was like, well, I want to see this. I want to catch up with it. Which, as we said, it's going to be premiering October 10th. So I still got some time to kind of put a chunk into it, but not that much longer. So, but yeah, nevertheless, I know folks are happy for that. October 10th, your wait is short. Is no longer going to be much. Next up.
Nier Automata has been one of the more popular video game titles released, apparently. And now it's set to find a whole new world of fans with the debut of its official anime adaptation coming out next year. And the Square Enix title has been exploding in popularity even more ever since it was first released.
Yeah, Nier Automata is a great game.
I was just going to add that this was announced during the Aniplex Online Fest event last week. Okay, go ahead.
which kind of snuck up on me because I was like, wait, when did that happen? And it was apparently, a thing. So, but yeah, I was just gonna say, Nier Automata is a great video game for a lot of people. Probably one of Platinum's best, some would argue. The fact it's getting an anime, that's probably gonna be slightly bonkers also, but we'll see how they handle it. Which is what I'm curious about. I was like, how are they going to handle that? Nevertheless, next up,
I was about to say, hold on for a second. I
sure,
just wanted to mention that Bleach 1000-Year Blood War, I think they're doing a preview screening at New York Comic Con.
yes, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I remember seeing on the schedule, so I do think we talked about it on the show, but I wanted to just mention that again because it is next week.
Right. Because I think you said you weren't gonna, you didn't have a ticket for that.
Yeah, I wasn't
anyway.
gonna be in the I wasn't gonna be whatchamacallit, I was gonna be at the con on that day that it was gonna be.
So, but Blue Lock anime receives broadcast information premiere date, which we kind of already talked about, so we can kind of push it along. But I know people are looking forward to checking this out. There's a trailer out there if you haven't seen it, which wasn't a part of the article aforementioned. And I see there's an article that is talking about Spy X Family's new opening credits. I'm not going to look at that until
it comes out this weekend.
Exactly. It's in 2 days as of it's in 1 day as of recording, but nevertheless.
Well, as of the end of this recording,
as of the
not
end
the
of
beginning.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, we started this recording on a Thursday, folks, and it's now passed over to Friday, so a little behind the scenes. Anyway,
That's
next
just
up.
the way it works.
Yep.
So Mashley, Magic and Muscles, is going to be one of the next major Shonen Jump manga series to get its full anime adaptation debut, and fans have gotten to see just a little bit of it in motion with the first teaser trailer ahead of its launch next year. Okay.
Yeah. Side note: there's a manga that's going to get turned into an anime that I'm looking for. Well, two, but one in particular called Crazy Fruit Truck that I've been threatening to read. I know it's out there on the Viz app, but and this Mashal one is slightly curious. It's slightly a curiosity to me. Maybe.
Is that how it's pronounced, Mashal?
I think I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I have not seen it or I've not heard it out loud. I mean, I've watched the commercial, but it doesn't really lend itself, But anyway, now we're going to go over into the comic book news. And, you can go ahead. Unless you hadn't pull this one up.
I haven't pulled it up yet. One second. DC announces new Harley Quinn creative team and its New York Comic Con plans. Okay. So let me pull this up. Thank goodness for a fast internet connection. So DC Comics is going all out to celebrate Harley Quinn's 30th anniversary. In addition to one shot that came out this week, which none of us read.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a bunch of stuff that comes out. And that beginning with March 2023's Harley Quinn number 28, the book is going to be written by Teenie Howard with art by Batman Urban Legends Sweeney Boo. Is that like Chicken Boo?
I thought that same thing, but I'm not sure.
Good night, everybody.
Shout out to Animaniacs. Sorry, folks. Additionally, DC announced plans to celebrate Harley through a pop-up celebration at New York Comic Con, which is next week. Okay, so it's going to be the pop-up's going to be outside of the Javits Center, offering free Harley Quinn comics, swag, and breakfast, as well as cupcakes to celebrate. Okay, that's nice.
Sure. And yeah, there's been also a rash of variant covers this week with Harley on it, so that kind of thing. Batman's newest villain returns with an unexpected twist. Speaking of Harley Quinn, this is a preview for Harley Quinn 22, written by Stephanie Phillips and artists Matteo Lally and David Baldion. It says here that the preview shows Harley's loyal friend Kevin trekking through the snowy mountains in search of the League of Assassins. Which has to do with the plots, I would imagine, of the arc that is currently going on, which I guess just started this week, involving Harley's death. So, but nevertheless, we won't go too far into that. But you can check out the show notes to check out the preview, or just go ahead and pick up the book since it's out, if you are so inclined. Next up.
So Sam and Twitch from the Spawn comic books are receiving a new 2-pack action figure set from McFarlane Toys in the near future. So, if you're familiar with these characters from the Spawn comic books, you're about to get a new 2-pack of them. That's cool. I remember them.
I didn't read that much Spawn, and I don't know if they showed up in that one HBO thing. Not the
I
thing.
don't remember, although it's been a while since I watched that. I don't know if
Right.
I ever made it all the way through that, to be honest.
I think I bought it. Probably have it on VHS back here somewhere. See, folks, the videos used to come on. I'm not gonna do that. Leonardo gets a Robotech style mech suit for the new Ninja Turtles figure. For a new Ninja Turtles figure. So it says here that Leonardo gets a radical robot reinvention in a new figure produced by Heat Boys that turns the katana-wielding reptile into a mech reminiscent of the anime classics such as Robotech and Mobile Suit Gundam. The impressive figure, scheduled for a late 2022 release, boasts a slew of accessories, including including twin katanas, daggers, revolvers, revolvers. I guess. Oh, sure, it's a mech. A shield, shuriken, and a rifle that fires mutagen potions. The middle section of Leonardo's shield can be used as a slot for the figure's daggers and shurikens, and the Turtles leader's shell opens to hold various items. Last but not least, Leonardo comes packaged with collectible parts of the Turtle Van and transparent green Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures. So this is going to set you, this is Q 2022, and this is going to set you back $169.99 from Big Bag Toy Store, if that's where you're gonna go, I guess. But that's the price listed here. So next up.
So Mecha Ghidorah is rejoining SH Monster Arts in a special Shinjuku Decisive Battle special set. So this is actually a redo of the original 2015 release, and now a portion of the body has been replaced with die-cast metals. So this is coming out in August of 2023, but the kicker here, folks, is that you can pre-order it at the low price of $280. Gotta love SH Monster Arts figures. They are super detailed and really cool, but guess what, folks? That's the deal.
Yep. Just like Hot Toys. Marvel has no plans to build a universe of video games, according to Bill Rossman, Marvel Games Vice President. So, and this was a interview with Game Industry Biz. Let's see, Bill Rossman discussed whether titles like Motive Studios' recently announced Iron Man might evolve into a multiverse of his own, similar to that seen in the comics and films. Rossman denied any such plan. He noticed that although it's a concept many audiences enjoy and respond well to, he felt that it would be detrimental to the company's overall goal. I feel like this is something that he's been saying since like that 2014 that Spider-Man game, basically, that everybody loves, which is a great game, by the way. You should play it. So, and that, and the whole side note with how the characters look, but I may be slightly wrong about that. Nevertheless, that's what he's saying now. So, they may be, I think the games are in their own world, but they're not like crossing into other multiverses, at least so far. We'll see if they keep up with that. Next up.
So a new book in the Star Wars The High Republic series is set to release this November. On November 22nd, 2022, Star Wars Convergence by Zoraida Cordova is set to be released. This is the next book in the Star Wars The High Republic series. This will be the first adult novel in Phase 2, Quest of the Jedi, and is set generations before Phase 1, Light of the Jedi. Okay.
Which was Soul's book. Yeah, okay. And then kick the whole High Republic thing off. Okay. Some sad news. Comic book legend Carlos Pacheco reveals ALS diagnosis.
Ah.
Yeah. Superstar comic book artist Carlos Pacheco, perhaps known according to his article for the maxi series Avengers Forever and the graphic novel JSA, Virtue and Vice, as well as his runs on X-Men, Excalibur, Fantastic Four, Green Lantern, and Captain America, has revealed that he has been diagnosed with neurodegenerative disease, also known as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. The Spanish artist made the tragic announcement on his Facebook page before deleting the post. He has since, and I think I saw this on Twitter actually, he has since responded to tweets about the diagnosis, though. So yeah, that is some quite sad news, because he's still been doing stuff recent that I know we had been talking about, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, that's tough. ALS, that's a hard thing to have.
Mm-hmm. So
otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
Exactly. Yeah, earlier this year, Pacheco announced a sabbatical from comics while he dealt with health issues, and now we know what's going on. So, next up.
Yeah, so this is a follow-up piece. So Carlos Pacheco shares his final comics work following his recent ALS diagnosis. So he shared his last comic illustration for Damage Control 2 on Twitter. So this was released this week. It's the cover for Damage Control number 2. It shows a shrunken Ant-Man and Wasp running from the unsuspecting mouth of Gus, the series' goofy protagonist who resembles a character from The Office.
Yeah. And if you're watching the video version, you can see the cover right now. Again, we didn't talk about it because neither one of us read it.
Right.
So.
I mean, I skimmed it, but it's not the kind of book that I'm going to follow closely. So I might read it at some point. But Roddykat might, he's much more attached to the property. So
yeah, but I was kind of lukewarm on this version of it though. But yeah, I did say I was at the very least going to catch. I mean, it's a limited series if I'm not mistaken. Even if it's not, it's yeah. Anyway, last but not least,
I wanted to add, I did have the good fortune of meeting Carlos Pacheco once and getting his autograph on my copies of I'm assuming it was like the early issues of Avengers Forever.
Gotcha.
So I did get to meet him once. So I got him to sign that, and I think I got him to sign the part of the Heroes book that he did. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost certain. I actually have my copy of Heroes right here with me. I'm holding it right in front of my face.
Yeah, it's not showing because there we go.
There it is.
Wait, is not Heroes from the show? This is a Marvel book, or
no? This is the Marvel 9/11.
Gotcha.
Tribute book.
Gotcha.
Okay. And I did get Carlos Pacheco to sign his contribution to this. So,
Gotcha.
I see his name on my list of already signed by.
Huh. Okay. Nice.
So, yeah, but that's some sad news from the comic book world.
I know I was having this discussion with the formerly known as Von Gloom, because I can't remember his name. He's going by now, but about that, and it was So, it kind of brings up the whole, like, why don't they have, why are not companies taking care of them or giving them insurance, that kind of thing.
Right,
so
right, because why is it all work for hire unless they have exclusive contract?
Exactly. So we had had that conversation. So I was like, yeah, that's sadly that's kind of how it goes, and you hate it,
Yeah.
But the initiative, and I pointed him to the Hero Initiative, also. But,
yeah, that's why the Hero Initiative exists.
Exactly.
Because of this whole work for hire, freelance, nature of comic book creation.
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I will probably put a link in the show notes for the Hero Initiative after the show. Last but not least, though,
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know. Does Spain have a national health system?
You know what? That's what I kind of wondered, because I don't know. That I don't know, honestly.
I'm kind of curious. That's worth it. I was about to say, I'll take a look at that while you take the last story.
Sure. Star Trek Strange New Worlds receives an IDW miniseries. Excuse me. It is called The Illyrian Enigma and is a 4-part miniseries that is debuting in December and will bridge the gap between the first and second seasons of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which I believe the first season is still ongoing at this point. So yeah. It's really not much to say about this because there's a press release that goes into what is it about, which we don't need to necessarily get into, and I have not seen Stranger New Worlds yet. I'm pretty sure. See, it's IDW and it's probably going to be $3.99. It doesn't say here, but I'm pretty sure that's probably the case. Next up, excuse me, that's it. So, did you find out?
I did. So there is a national healthcare system.
Okay.
But it's for people who are Spanish nationals. So if you're a visitor to Spain, I guess you're paying full ride.
Right.
But, if you're a Spanish national, so I guess he does have that particular benefit. So, obviously there are certain things that still probably require private payment or private insurance to cover, but at least he is in a country where there is a national healthcare system.
Unlike this one.
Correct.
Okay, before we go into the last ad read of the night, a very quick show and tell by myself, which is, let's see if this plays. There we go. So I talked about this book, and we have talked about this book before. Black Panther: Protectors of Wakanda, written by Karama Horn, aka the Blurred Girl, on Twitter and all over the place. You've probably seen her work at Sci-Fi and other places. She's dope. She's written a book. I did not get a chance to read the book like I said on Twitter that I was, or excuse me, like I said on Instagram that I was, but hopefully still going to get around to it. It is basically, as the book says here, a history and training manual of the Dora Milaje. So if that is something that is of interest to you as a fan of Black Panther or the Dora themselves, you should probably check this out. And I say that not having read the book yet, but nevertheless, I feel pretty good about it, and I've seen nothing but glowing reviews on it from other people who have read it. So I don't know if that means anything, but there you go. As a fan of Black Panther, I was going to pick the book up regardless. And that, folks, is that. We're going to go into the last ad read of the night.
The last ad read of the night. You know what we read when it's late and we're getting tired and a little punchy. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
All right, folks, that is the end of the show. We're going to get out of here, but we will be back next week. What we got? We got She-Hulk, we got Andor, Rings of Power, House of the Dragon. You said New York's starting next week, but we probably won't see too much coming out of that.
Yeah, probably, like if there's any announcement pre or on that Thursday, we're probably gonna just miss it.
Right.
Being reported maybe.
Right.
Because we record on Thursdays, but ultimately, we'll have plenty of TV to talk about, and we'll probably do some quick. There usually isn't as much news coming out of New York Comic Con, but sometimes you get surprised.
Yeah, like you said, there's some
like
stuff.
San Diego, exactly.
Yeah,
it's not like San Diego, but there's usually some stuff coming out of New York.
Right, and like you said, some stuff that'll come out prior to the show, going into the show. So, I feel like somebody said I think like Marvel or somebody said they were going to have some announcements at New York that they were holding for New York, but I can't remember if that was true or I'm just making that up.
I'm sure that there will be. I'm sure there will be.
Yeah. That being said, folks, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. PopCultureNet on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com is the umbrella site they're in. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. Go check that out. The Kliq Nation, that's TheKliqNation on Twitter. This is also Tim's account. But you can also find him over at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. Thank you, Benji. He's who says Benji Games 2 says great show, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Yeah. You can find this here show after the recording on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's ESPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us in your podcast place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/The Kliq Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, which Benji Games 2 did. So we appreciate it. With that, folks, we'll be back next week, like we said. So, with that, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One. Wakanda forever!
Rest in peace, Coolio.
Yes.